My neighbor complained that my porch light ruined her sleep, so she cut the power to my house while my infant daughter slept inside on a hot night. I filed a police report. 2 days later, I saw her husband sneaking into my backyard with wire cutters. I hit record and let him finish. My wife and I bought our first real home last summer. We live in Temecula, California. It's a nice, middle-class town. Pretty safe, lots of families, quiet streets, good schools. We were excited. Our daughter, Ella, had just been born. She was 2 months old when we moved in. We didn't have a lot of money left after buying the house, but we had enough to furnish the place, baby-proof what we needed, and get set up with security cameras and motion lights. I'm not paranoid, just cautious. I used to work night shifts in Riverside and came home to find cars broken into a few times. Didn't want that happening here. There's a small front porch attached to the house. I put a standard porch light on it. Not a stadium light, not anything crazy, just a regular bulb that stays on through the night. I didn't think that would be a problem. Until Cheryl knocked on my door the 3rd day after we moved in. She didn't smile. Didn't say welcome. Just, "Is that porch light going to stay on all night, every night?" I thought she was joking. I kind of smiled and said, "It's just for safety." She didn't smile back. "It shines straight into my window. I can't sleep." I tried to be nice. Told her we were adjusting still and maybe I'd put in a softer bulb later. She crossed her arms and said, "Just turn it off after 9. I didn't agree. I said I'd think about it. That was the first knock. I should have paid more attention then. 2 days later she knocked again. "You haven't turned off that light." I was more blunt this time. "It's staying. I've got a newborn in here and I'm not messing around with lighting." She muttered something about light pollution and how she'd lived there for 20 years without a damn spotlight next door. Then she left. That night, the bulb was broken. Completely shattered. I replaced it and installed a little wise cam pointed at the porch. I didn't catch anyone, but from then on, I noticed her peeking through her blinds a lot at night. Just staring. Creepy. Fast forward 2 weeks. It was July. Hot as hell. Ella had just gone down after crying for almost an hour. She had reflux, colic, everything. My wife and I were totally drained, just sitting in the living room, lights low, AC running, watching the monitor. She was finally asleep. Then, bam, complete darkness. Everything went off at once. I ran to the panel. Nothing was tripped. The baby monitor was dead. The AC was off. The entire house felt like it was already heating up. I stepped outside and looked at the houses around us, all still lit. Just ours was dark. That's when I went around the side and saw the wires. They had been cut. Like someone had used clippers. Clean. Fresh. I called SDG. Then I called the cops. The officer was professional, but you could tell he thought it was going to go nowhere. "No one saw anything?" I told him about Cheryl. He took down the name, said they'd make a report, and maybe follow up. We packed Ella up and drove to my in-laws' house for the night. We didn't have a choice. It was nearly 90 degrees inside the house and rising. My wife cried the whole drive. Ella started crying again too. I was beyond furious. The next day, I filed a report with the police department. I printed out photos of the wire damage and gave them everything I could. I didn't have hard evidence yet, but my gut knew it was her. The timing, the complaints, the broken bulb, the obsession with that porch light, it all pointed to Cheryl. I installed more cameras. I aimed one straight at the side of the house where the power line ran. And I waited. 2 nights later, at around 10:45 p.m., I got an alert from the camera. Motion detected. I looked at the feed. At first, I thought it was a raccoon or something, just a shadow. But then I saw it clearly. It was Greg. Cheryl's husband. He was in our backyard. Holding wire cutters. I stayed inside. Quiet. Watching. He crouched low, took out a small flashlight, and walked toward the power line. I hit record on my phone from the live camera feed. He didn't even hesitate. He went right for the same spot as before. While he was clipping, I walked outside through the back door. I didn't say anything at first. Just watched him finish. As soon as the power snapped off, again, I turned on my flashlight. He froze. I said, "You done, Greg?" He turned around, eyes wide like a deer in headlights. Started stammering. It's not what you think, Cheryl, she hasn't been sleeping." I cut him off. "You're on camera. I'm calling the cops." He didn't even try to run. When the cops arrived, I showed them the video. They arrested him right there in my yard. Charged him with criminal vandalism and endangering a child, because Ella was in the house again. At the station, Greg sang like a damn canary. He admitted Cheryl was the one who cut the wire the first time. Said she told him to do it again because they'd never get caught. And she couldn't take the light anymore. Claimed it was ruining her life. The cops arrested Cheryl the next day. But I wasn't done. This wasn't going to be one of those "they got arrested and that's it" situations. I went back through all the camera footage from the last month. Found video after video of Cheryl walking up to our porch while we were gone, unscrewing bulbs, tilting our cameras down, even moving our trash cans into the street on non-pickup days. We'd gotten 2 citations from the city for that. Now I knew why. I gave everything to the police. They added more charges to Cheryl's case. Still, she tried to act like she was the victim. Told one of the officers we were aggressive newcomers who didn't respect the community. I didn't respond. Instead, I took a different approach. I joined the HOA. I dug into their history. What I found next made everything worth it. When Cheryl and Greg got arrested, I thought the hard part was over. But it wasn't. Turns out, some neighbors didn't like that I escalated things. One guy across the street, Mark, stopped waving when I walked by. Another neighbor, Janice, posted something passive-aggressive on Facebook about people bringing trouble into a peaceful street. I kept quiet. I didn't care if they liked me. I cared about protecting my daughter and making sure people paid for what they did. The police were still building the case, so I focused on the HOA. Cheryl had been a board member for over a decade. She helped write the HOA rules. She was strict with others, fined people over lawn heights, mailbox colors, and driveway stains. Everyone was afraid of her. But now, she was suspended while the criminal case was active. So I filled the vacancy. I joined the board. They held a vote. I got it. Not everyone was happy. I saw the looks at the meeting. But I came prepared. I requested the past 5 years of HOA violations and approvals. I went home with a box full of files. My wife thought I was going too far. "We have a baby. We need peace," she said. I kissed her on the forehead and told her I agreed, but peace comes after justice. Over the next week, I found everything I needed. Greg and Cheryl had built a backyard shed 5 years ago, no permit, no approval. They replaced part of their fence with the wrong material. They installed a sunshade without inspection. Cheryl had fined others for less. And then I found something worse. 2 years ago, their dog had bitten a neighbor's kid, badly. There was a medical bill, but no HOA report filed. No violation. No fine. It looked like Cheryl had buried it. I found the parents. They still lived nearby. I knocked on their door and asked if they'd be willing to write a letter about what happened. They said yes. They were still angry. The whole thing had been brushed off. Their son still had a scar. I brought all of it back to the next board meeting. Half the board looked shocked. The other half looked like they already knew. After the meeting, Cheryl's lawyer emailed the HOA to settle all pending violations quietly. Too late. We fined them over $12,000. The city got involved too. That shed was illegal. They had to tear it down. Their sunshade had to be removed. Their fence? Rebuilt to code. But that wasn't the worst of it. A reporter from the Valley News had picked up the story. HOA enforcer arrested for vandalism, targeted neighbor with infant daughter. The headline made its rounds on social media. I didn't share it, I didn't have to. Everyone saw it. Cheryl resigned from the HOA officially the next day. But here's the twist. The charges weren't sticking like I hoped. Their lawyer was trying to argue mental stress, insomnia, confusion. Claimed Greg was coerced by Cheryl and Cheryl was unwell. The DA wasn't dropping it, but they were open to a deal. That pissed me off. So I decided to make sure everyone knew exactly who they were dealing with. I took everything, every photo, every clip, every report, and made a website. I titled it TemeculaTruth.com. I listed all the incidents, power line cut, security footage, garbage citations, the HOA violations, the dog bite. I didn't lie. Didn't embellish. Just posted the truth with timestamps, clips, and facts. The site got 3,000 views in the first 48 hours. I didn't even share it on Facebook. Someone else did. Then, neighbors started coming forward. One woman sent me a message saying Cheryl had once yelled at her teenage son for skateboarding in the driveway. Another said Greg used to creep around backyards looking at fences. For the HOA. I kept collecting stories. All of them true. All of them now public. Cheryl's name was poison in the neighborhood. People started yelling at Greg when they saw him. A few people spray painted their sidewalk. The word rat showed up in red letters on their trash can. They stopped going outside. Then, the biggest twist of all happened. Someone broke into their garage. I woke up that morning to a police cruiser parked outside Cheryl and Greg's house. 2 officers were standing in their driveway. Greg was pacing around in a t-shirt and pajama pants, yelling about a targeted campaign. Cheryl wasn't outside. She hadn't been seen in days. I stood at the edge of my driveway, sipping coffee, watching like everyone else. 10 minutes later, a detective came to my door. He was polite but firm. "Mr. Danner? You got a moment?" I let him in. He asked if I knew anything about the break-in. Someone had smashed the side garage window at Cheryl's place the night before. The lock on the door was broken. A few boxes were opened but not taken. No electronics missing, but Greg claimed they'd been ransacked. Said someone was trying to scare them. I told the detective the truth. I didn't know anything about it, and I didn't need to, because I already had the truth on my side. I even showed him my backyard camera footage from the night. Full timestamp. My yard was quiet the whole time. He nodded. Mind if we take a look at your website? I pulled it up on my laptop. Showed him everything. He scrolled through for a few minutes, looked impressed, and then said, "So you've got a little neighborhood operation here." I shrugged. "Just making sure people know who they're living next to." He smirked. "Well, for what it's worth, you've got better records than some of the case files I've read." Then he told me something that surprised me. Apparently, Cheryl was now trying to claim harassment. That my website, the fines, and the social pressure were all part of an organized campaign to ruin their lives. She'd filed a complaint with the city. I asked him point blank, "Do you think she did this to her own house?" He didn't answer right away. Just said, "Let's just say the damage is selective." Then he left. That night, I checked the HOA site and found out Cheryl had reactivated her membership before resigning. That meant one thing: she could still access records. Which made what happened next make sense. Our house got cited for illegal use of security lighting. Same exact wording Cheryl had used in her first complaint months ago. Then we got 2 noise complaints, both filed anonymously, both for late night crying disturbing neighborhood sleep. My daughter is a baby. She cries. That's life. But they were pushing back again. So I went a step further. I started attending city council meetings. I brought copies of my footage. I filed formal complaints. I got 2 other neighbors to sign statements. I kept pushing. And it worked. The city dropped Cheryl's harassment claim, called it retaliatory and unsubstantiated. But then, someone posted flyers around the neighborhood. Handwritten signs taped to mailboxes and light poles. Who's the real monster? New guy is bringing crime and drama to our street. My wife found one on our car windshield. I took them all down. But I wasn't mad. I was done playing defense. I had been holding on to one last thing, something I hadn't shown anyone. My backyard camera had picked up a faint voice the night Greg was arrested. Not his. It was Cheryl. She was hiding near the bushes, whispering directions to him. You could hear her say, "Cut it fast, Greg. It's just a wire." I had cleaned up the audio, boosted the volume, and saved the clip. And now? Now I was going to hand it over. But I didn't send it to the police first. I sent it to the reporter who wrote the article. The one who had emailed me last week asking, "Do you have any new info?" I just replied with the clip and said, "Enjoy." The article went live the next morning. Leaked audio reveals HOA board member whispered instructions during power sabotage. Charges may rise. It exploded online. Local Facebook groups went nuts. People started calling for more charges. The DA's office reopened their file. That same day, Greg and Cheryl put their house up for sale. But they weren't gone yet. And I still wasn't finished. When I saw the for sale sign in Cheryl and Greg's front yard, I didn't feel relief. Not yet. They were still here. Still fighting. Still filing complaints through other neighbors. Still trying to make us the villains. I wasn't letting them leave clean. The article with the leaked audio hit hard. People I'd never met waved at me in support. A few even dropped notes in our mailbox thanking us for standing up to those bullies. But Cheryl? She doubled down. She showed up at the next HOA meeting, even though she'd resigned, and tried to speak during open comments. Claimed her arrest was a setup. Claimed her husband was coerced and harassed. She looked worn down, eyes heavy, like she hadn't slept in days. I let her finish. Then I walked to the front and said calmly, "I have one final motion to present." I pulled out a thick folder and dropped it on the table. Inside were printouts of her fake complaint emails, pulled via a subpoena from the city records office, screenshots of a private Facebook group Cheryl ran for select neighbors, where she openly talked about getting rid of the Porch people, a copy of the child endangerment report that showed Ella's monitor had gone offline during the first blackout, and the audio, transcribed and time-stamped. I didn't even need a vote. The board banned Cheryl and Greg from holding any HOA positions ever again. Fined them an extra $7,500 for ethics violations and unreported misconduct while in office. By then, their lawyer had walked off the case. I found that out because Cheryl herself emailed me a cease and desist. I laughed and framed it. But then, something happened I didn't expect. They tried to file a civil suit against me. Claimed defamation. Claimed emotional stress and loss of privacy. It scared me for about 30 seconds. Then my lawyer, a friend of my wife's uncle, filed a countersuit. For damages. For the cost of repairs. For lost food during the power outages. For 2 months of stress while raising a newborn in a hostile environment. And for endangerment. We filed all the security footage and documentation with the court. The judge dismissed their lawsuit in under 10 minutes. And moved ours forward. But they didn't show up to the hearing. You want to know why? Because 2 days before it, they got arrested again. Turns out, they had stopped paying their taxes on the property, and had been lying to the bank about Greg's income. Cheryl was taking money from HOA petty cash back when she was on the board. Small amounts. Over years. But it added up. I hadn't even uncovered that. The HOA treasurer had. He was angry that Cheryl had blamed him during a meeting, and he went digging. She got charged with embezzlement. Greg got charged with aiding wire fraud, since he was helping hide funds in a fake landscaping business on their joint taxes. I watched them get walked out of their house in handcuffs. Again. This time, they were indicted on federal charges. The house sale fell through. The bank took it back in foreclosure. The night they left, for good, I sat on my porch with my wife, holding Ella in my arms. It was quiet. Peaceful. The porch light was on. Motion activated. Right above a fresh bulb. Bright. Secure. We watched a moving van pull up. 2 officers stood nearby while a company boxed up everything Cheryl and Greg hadn't already sold off. A car pulled out of the driveway. No one looked at us. Except the moving guy. He smiled and said, "You the guy from that website?" I nodded. He grinned. "Good work, man. Neighborhood's better without them." The best part? We won the civil suit by default. The judge awarded us $34,800 in damages. We used it to pay off the rest of the house. And install a backup generator, just in case. Sometimes, revenge doesn't come with fire or fists. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's justice. And sometimes it's a porch light, shining just a little brighter than before.